Welcome to College Admissions Toolbox, giving you the edge you need to get into the colleges of your dreams, with your host, Steve Schwartz. That's me. Right now, you're listening to part 2 of a 2-part interview. So check out part 1 if you haven't already. We split this one up into 2 episodes because there was so much good information that we couldn't fit it all into one. Enjoy.
And you know, you're talking about this, I can just see these admissions officers, they've got this pile, and they'll be like, hey, what about that girl that sang karaoke? Or, hey, what about that kid that dragged the trampoline kid? You know, like, or what about the kid on the bench? Or, now I can't remember the other ones, but I can just see them sort of dubbing you, you know, giving you this little moniker that you're memorable by the little mundane thing that you wrote about. And that is exactly what you want, right? I mean, that it's something, it's not, you want to write something that's not on anywhere else in your admissions package. And in a way, it just puts a face, you know, to your whole packet. And it just makes it personal. And they sort of get a sense of who you are. But
Absolutely.
I love that idea that they just go, you know, what about that kid, you know? And so I think it's very powerful.
Yeah, grill master, bench warmer, ice cream scooper, those are all nicknames that they do give to people, and that they admit you and you choose to go there and you're on campus. You know, sometimes I've heard of cases where, you know, admission officers will go up to a student and be like, I loved your essay, because these are kids who aren't getting accepted necessarily just based on the numbers. They're not valedictorians with 2400s. You know, they're a little bit maybe outliers on the numbers in the numbers department, but they've got, you know, grill master in their back pocket, and that's what ultimately draws them in.
Right. And I know there's no real way to ever know for sure how much these essays, you know, are weighed in. And but at the same time, you've probably had this happen. I've had kids that have come back to me and said, you know, God, I had good scores but there are a lot of kids that had a lot better scores, a lot better grades. So I'm not sure why I got into Berkeley. But I'll think, you know, you had a really interesting essay. And I just think a lot of times if you do come up with something that just has that little spin to it, you just never know that it can make a difference. You know, whether everybody has a lot of the same stats. So what else are they going to use, you know, to put you in that yes pile? So I just think it's not worth stressing out and freaking out about. But I do think it is definitely worth taking the time to sit down, to brainstorm, collect your stories, you know, look up resources on the internet, read sample essays, and just sort of teach yourself a little bit the formula, how to write this kind of essay. Find a great topic, and just do it. And a lot of my students, once you get that good idea, it doesn't take a month to write one of these. You know, get a good idea, map out just a simple outline for yourself. Sit down, say I'm going to sit down for a half hour and just pound out a rough draft. You know, you can have one of these essays done, I think, within a couple hours, especially once you land on a good topic. What's your experience with that? How much time do you think these essays usually take?
Well, I mean, I personally, you know, like yourself, you know, I have a writing background, and I find that, you know, writing can take as long as you want it to take. You know, as you worked as a reporter, I'm sure you know your experience with deadlines. You know, like the deadline determines how long the writing takes in a way.
Right.
You get down to the wire, you got to bang it out. I mean, honestly, I think that the best writing will happen over a longer period of time. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of writing a rough draft, you know, even months in advance if you can. Mm-hmm. You know, then setting it aside in a desk drawer, you know, metaphorically maybe for a little bit. Coming back to it in a week or two, you come back with fresh eyes, you're a little bit detached from what you wrote previously, then you can begin that revision process. But honestly, you know, one thing that you brought to my mind was the idea that, you know, the essay, you know, if you want to really make it the best writing it can be, it's going to take some time. But as far as the percentage weight it has in admissions, you get a lot of bang for your buck with the time you invest in the college essay. You know, think about your high school GPA. That, you know, by the time you apply, you know, fall of senior year, you know, most likely, you know, you've got, you know, already 3 1/4, 3 1/3 years all add up to one GPA in the end. Right. And yeah, you show an upward trend, but hopefully, but your GPA has a big impact, but you can't do a lot about it by the time you're, a late, your springtime junior year, fall senior year. There's not that much more you can do there, but your college essay, that's measured in hours, maybe dozens of hours, but not hundreds of hours.
Right.
And
I just think my thinking is your number one goal with your essay first is to make sure it doesn't keep you out of a school.
Yeah.
Above all, make sure it's well written, well edited, clear, and then obviously the goal is to get one that stands out, has meaning, really, engages the admissions officers, all that good stuff. But I totally agree. I think it's a chance that you could just sort of kick yourself up a few notches in terms of your chances of getting into school. These, it's the only piece of that admission packet that they have that has any personality to it at all. And and it's also your chance to sort of tell them a different side of yourself. One thing I've been thinking about lately is how some students, maybe if you think about how you come across with what your interests are and your background, think about how that essay can kind of complement that. Like if you're obviously this like overachiever A-type student, maybe think of a topic that can show how you're well-balanced human being, I just think that if I were trying to pick who would go to my college, I would want kids that are have a nice balance in terms of their character and personality, what they care about. I don't know, have you thought about that at all? Or
Yeah, I think the colleges definitely want students who are going to bring something interesting to the campus. They can take, plenty of, the top colleges will have plenty of valedictorians with 2400s or folks along those lines.
Right.
But how interesting are they to have a conversation with? Maybe, a lot of them might just be all about the books and the studying, and maybe they're great on the academic front and they could be great scholars. Mm-hmm. But the colleges also want a campus that's going to be interesting and people who will have, valuable contributions for the campus extracurriculars and campus life and, the seminar discussions. And they want, part of being successful in life is also being a people person.
I think that's really true. And again, I think that's why those kind of essays that sometimes show something sort of quirky about you or something that is unexpected, I think that's why those are so powerful, because they are looking for people that have personalities, that aren't just cookie cutter. And those are the people that are successful in the world. That goes way beyond just how well you take tests and, grades and how hard you study. And I think colleges really value that. And I think that's what they're looking for. These essays help them to find those kids that have sort of a unique personality and a rich character. One thing I think, especially for students that are from sort of unrepresented or from underprivileged backgrounds, I think it's really important to show how you have this quality called grit, which is really just raw determination. From what I've heard, colleges really want to make sure that not only can you get in their college, but are you going to be able to thrive there? Once you're there, away from home and your typical support network, are you going to be able to, ride it out and thrive? And so I urge students to really look for problems, that whole idea of finding problems, something that you can show that you faced and you grappled with and you took the steps and you conquered it. I think that's what they say is that's a way to show your grit, to show how you have what it takes to succeed when obstacles or problems are thrown, in your way. And so I just think that's another reason that it's important to try to find, things that have been challenges to write about.
Absolutely. Demonstrating perseverance, showing you can overcome obstacles, because you are going to have obstacles in college and afterwards. You're going to have a professor who's not fair to you. You're going to, have some sort of roadblock or setback, in your personal life, socially maybe.
Right.
And the colleges don't want people who are going to fold at the first obstacle and then drop out or have to take a break. Obviously, if that happens, it happens. But they want to know that you're going to be able to do what you can to avoid that. And similarly, going forward into your professional career after you graduate and your personal life as well, things are going to happen. Your success is going to be determined to some extent by your ability to learn from failures and overcome them, and also do what you can to press forward despite whatever comes your way.
Exactly. Yep.
We've been talking a lot about stories, and one thing we love to hear on College Admissions Toolbox is stories. Could you take us to the moment in time of the worst college admissions moment that you've seen or experienced, and tell us the story behind it?
The worst one. There really haven't been that many terrible, hideous moments.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I don't know about you. You probably have better ones. I don't know. But I did have this one student that came in. We're sitting there and we're brainstorming. And he's like, yeah, I want to write about how I went to, I remember, Ethiopia. And it was one of those worked with to build a school or something like that. And all of a sudden, and so I started asking him questions to try to, flesh out some details. All of a sudden he goes, yeah, well, okay, I didn't really do this. My mom did this.
Oh, no.
It was his mom's story. She had gone years ago. I'm like, are you kidding me? I said, first of all, that makes what you're talking about a total lie. Why in the world would you do that? It's unethical. Beyond that, you have to think, what is the point here of this essay? You really want your essay to reflect true, who you really are and be as genuine as possible. Because the point is, these admissions officers are trying to, see if you're a match, if you're the right fit for their school. So if you come across as somebody else, and that goes for people that try to buy, essays, which I think is really a dumb idea. Even though it sounds like a shortcut, you're going to hurt yourself in the end because you're not going to have the match. You're not going to end up in the right place for you in the long run. So anyway, that one just sort of, I thought that was crazy. And it was his mom's idea that he use it. I'm like, who are you people? The whole thing. So I don't know I guess it wasn't the worst moment, but it just showed me how some people just don't seem to get the bigger picture. I don't know. I just thought, I told him almost any other thing that you write about, as long as it's about yourself, is going to be a million times better about you trying to pretend that you were your mom and had this experience. How are you going to have any details that'll make it interesting? How will you have any insights, that'll give it depth? So I forget what he ended up writing about, but he did not, fortunately, write about Ethiopia.
Yeah, honestly, you don't have to resort to making something up about your experience in Ethiopia if you didn't go there yourself. I mean, you've got so many other things to share, right? Even the mundane things like we talked about. And the thing is that if you'd gone to Ethiopia, maybe your letters of rec from teachers would have mentioned that, and you got to be able to come across that, authentically in your college interview as well. More and more schools are doing interviews with the rise of the video Skype interviews and stuff. So you really wanted that passion to come across. So pick a college essay topic that's legitimate, that you really did experience and you're passionate about, and then you'll be able to show that in all the different areas of your application. It's going to work so much better in the end. Totally. You don't need to have gone overseas in order to have a compelling story.
Right. I thought of another one. If you have
sure, please.
It wasn't a. What was your question? It was a terrible thing. It wasn't a terrible thing. I do workshops. College counselors will have me come in and work with their students to do brainstorming. So they had done the brainstorming, and it was their second round where they came back with their rough drafts. And so they wanted, we were reading them out loud. So this student handed me her essay, and I started reading it, and it was just this. It was an amazing essay, and it was just one of those topics where her dad had got cancer when she was quite young. The mom ditched out on the family, couldn't take it, left this girl and her brother. And so this girl basically nursed her dad up in his bedroom, for years, all the way up through going to high school. She did the grocery shopping. They had to sell the house, just on and on. And so and the way she wrote it was so lovely. She just started by her daily routine, how every day after school she'd just walk upstairs and sit on the side of the bed where her dad was, and he'd take her hand and she'd tell him about her day. And it was just this love. And then she went into just the challenges that she faced and what she learned from it. But anyway, I started reading it. And of course, I start choking up. I'm going to totally lose it in front of all these students. So I'm like, the college counselor woman was sitting next to me, and I thought, oh, she's probably tougher than me. So I like, what? Can you read it? So she starts to read it. So she almost loses it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was so powerful, and it was such a beautiful essay. But so, these students have a lot of amazing stories, and they're very affecting. But talk about, you think those college admissions counselors are going to remember her? Of course. I mean, if somebody makes you cry, laugh, think, they're going to remember you, So I guess, again, that wasn't a terrible thing, but it's one that left quite an impression on me. And so she got
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry. So when you say she got in where?
She got into all her schools, and she got a lot of scholarship money. And again, I don't know. I'm not that deep into the actual college industry to know, but my sense is that a lot, especially the liberal arts colleges, use these essays to decide merit scholarship money. I was told I actually met the college admissions counselor at the school at Hendrix College where my daughter went, and he told me that they do use these, the essays, to decide on merit scholarships. So just another reason to put that extra energy into them.
Yeah, absolutely. Writing well is so important for so many college classes, and college essays is an opportunity to exhibit great writing ability. I mean, one thing that you really touched on, really valuable insight I got out of your story just now is the idea that the best writing generates some kind of emotion in the reader.
Right, exactly. That is how it's. I think they call it pathos. That's how we connect, because we when you feel something, that's a connection, and that's why I encourage students to try to open up. To try to. It's okay to be a little vulnerable, and you don't have to know everything. You can say, I was unsure, I really didn't know, or I messed up, and or I ached inside, it made me sad. Go ahead and open up, and that is how you connect, and that whether, and also if your story's funny, a lot of times these little moments that you write about. Like, say the guy that went and pulled the trampoline off the side of the road, and they put it on his old car, and they sort of drove it 2 miles an hour back home. It's sort of an entertaining story. You don't try to write it like a comedy sketch, but a lot of times these little moments, they are sort of funny, and there's nothing wrong with that, because again, it's that common experience. It's sort of like we can all relate on some level, and for something to be funny, we have to kind of get it, and to be sad, we have to have had sad things in our life too, and that's what you're connecting by sharing your little moments and stories.
Definitely. Now I want to shift gears a little bit, Janine, and move on to a moment of inspiration that you've seen a student experience, or you've experienced yourself. A light bulb moment that leads you on the path to success.
Mm-hmm. When doing these essays?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You probably have it when you are working with students and you're brainstorming. You have them all the time, because a lot of times they'll come in and they're like, nothing's exciting about me. I don't know what to write about. And you start talking about, well, what was your summer job? And this is a true story. This one girl, nothing. I have nothing interesting. Well, what was your summer job? Oh, well, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. And I'm like, oh, that could be interesting. And she says, yeah, my dad owns a couple of the franchises. I'm like, well, that's fascinating. And how did that happen? Oh, well, he got his engineering degree, but then he couldn't find a job. So he worked at Dunkin' Donuts and worked his way up and bought them. And so her whole life had been Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, talk about, right? Being defined. I'm like, well, would you bring them home all the time, like the old ones? And she's like, oh my God, almost every day, we'd always had donuts. And I'm like, and this was to me a great topic, but it was so right in front of her face, she didn't even see it. To her, why would you want to write an essay about, and then she got her summer job at Dunkin' Donuts.
Of course.
wrote about her world, the world of donuts. And when she started to think about it, she realized that she really learned the world of business. She learned about customer service. She learned, she talked about what she saw her dad, his whole story. So interesting. So it was, I'm trying to think how she structured it. So we're brainstorming, okay, the world of Dunkin' Donuts. Now, how do you turn that into a story? Well, go back to that idea of when was there a problem? And I said, when you were working there, she goes, there's this one time the guy, had spilled his coffee all over him and he, stormed back in and I had to deal with that. So I said, well, how about just starting with that little anecdote? Just create that moment. And really what you're showing is you're putting us in your shoes of what it was like to work there and how you learned you had to deal with people, the public. And then from there you could talk about just not only learning about the public, but just business in general and that your world of Dunkin' Donuts. And then there are all those cool little details, about how many jelly donuts can you eat and that. But it turned out it really showed a quality. I think she was actually interested in being a business major. So it was sort of, she was showcasing sort of an entrepreneurial spirit, which is perfect. So that's the kind of thing when you're fishing around, look at your jobs, look what's up on your wall in your room, think about family trips, think about what some of your fears and what are you obsessed, when you're brainstorming. And a lot of times, all of a sudden, something will come up and you'll say, well, wait a minute, and you dig a little deeper. And that's when you have that moment. You're like, well, that would be a great topic. And like I said, one of the things I see a lot are ones where you're like, no, you wouldn't want to, that's too stupid. You don't want to write about that I'm obsessed with Twilight. And but it turned out to be a good essay. And I had one girl that came in, again, she was, I'm so boring and normal. I played softball, that whole thing. And I'm like, no, you have to have something. And we actually were brainstorming and we weren't finding anything. And I was starting to sort of sweat it a little bit. But then I noticed that she had this big smile on her face. And it was, I don't know if you've known anybody like this. Even when they talk, they are still smiling.
Yeah, they can't help it.
They can't help it. They just have this smiley thing. I said, you smile a lot. And she says, yeah, my mom says I smile all the time. And I thought, wow, that's a defining characteristic. And how could that not sort of be a reflection of who you are? She wrote a fabulous essay about it. And because she just sort of took this idea of smiling all the time and played around with it, sort of looked for metaphors, what does it mean? Is there ever a time really you shouldn't be smiling? Or does it mean you're happy if you're smiling all the time? What is happiness? So it was just taking that simple little, funny little, I don't know if it's a habit or quality that she had and spinning it into an interesting essay. But that was one of those, those aha moments that they're really pretty fun. And again, I have never had a student that didn't land on something and pretty, phenomenal. So that's what I know there's students out there that are like, no, I know I have nothing, but you do. You just have to trust the little things that are in your life and just start brainstorming. So.
Absolutely. Back to those mundane topics. I love it because even any mundane topic, you can make it your trademark. I'm the grill master. I'm the Dunkin' Donuts girl. I'm the smile girl. Everyone's got something. You just got to dig deep, ask other people around you, what's unique about me or, what are people razzing you about all the time?
Exactly.
There's something there. There's something there. There always is.
Always is. So that's, to me, I just think those are my aha moments. And
absolutely.
They happen, every time. So.
Yep. Love it. I want to move down to the lightning round, Janine.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. You give me some rapid fire responses. Are you ready?
All right, go.
All right, awesome. What's your number one piece of advice for the college admissions process?
I actually thought about this. So I say to focus more on the fit, and you probably heard about that, but I would just try to tune out all that BS about I'm going to Harvard, my dad went to USC, all that stupid prestige, status, pressure talk. I would say try to find the school that's right for you. And there's hundreds and thousands of schools in this country. And if you just get online and focus more on what is the vibe on campus, what do they, are they big on the Greek scene? Are they, what do they care about there? And think about what you care about and really look more about what's the right match. So that wasn't a lightning answer, but
that's all right. But I couldn't agree more. Do your research, visit the campus if you can. Talk to current students. Make sure you can picture yourself there for 4 years. You want to be happy. Yep,
that's exactly right. And you know what? If for some reason it doesn't turn out, you can transfer. I think I went to 4 different colleges. Not that I'm the ideal or anything, but it all worked out. It usually does. And I just think to, as much as you can, resist the pressure to think that there's only certain schools that if you don't get into, your life is going to be a failure. That's just baloney.
No, it all works out in the end. You want to avoid that stress.
Totally. Yep.
Could you share with us one habit that contributes to college admission success?
I think, a lot of it is just, I remember both my kids, went through this whole process, and I did a long time ago, but it's just that it feels so overwhelming, you got to do this and this and this. I think if you just break it down into steps, and just take one step at a time, you will be surprised. It's not rocket science. It's just really just stay on track, take one step at a time, and try not to freak out about it.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
What's one online college admissions resource that you absolutely love?
There's a lot of great ones out there, and there's a couple. I like the ones that kind of help students feel like they get an inside view of what's really going on at colleges, like College Confidential. I think there's a lot of great forums on there, and College Prowler that you can go on when you're trying to figure out. And especially like when you're writing those supplemental essays, you have to write the one main essay for the Common App or for if you're going to a bigger university. But they also have these supplemental essays, and the most common ones are like, why are you a match here? And those types, I think it's really helpful to do research beyond just looking at their website and just try to get some insights into what they're all about, so you can cite that and use that in those supplements. And I think so College Confidential and College Prowler.
Yeah, those are both great.
Yeah.
What's one book that no college applicant should be without?
Besides my books?
Yeah, absolutely. And mention your book title, by the way, just so everyone gets it.
I'm kidding. I don't know if you can be I think you maybe could be without it. But one that I found really helpful when my kids were starting to think about college was 40 colleges that change lives. I think that's called. I think in really what it is it just opened our thinking to beyond, again, the prestige schools and also the big universities as our only options. We live in Southern California. A lot of people out here don't think about all those amazing liberal arts colleges that are so awesome in the Midwest or on the East Coast or in Florida. In this school, I think the premise was the guy that wrote it featured 40 colleges that were kind of under the radar. That you could have a B, you maybe got a B or even a C and still get into them, but they were outstanding small liberal arts colleges where a lot of times you can get great merit scholarships, a lot of financial aid, even though the price tag may look like it's $50,000, you can get it down below what maybe state college education would cost, and that's what we did. And it just, even if you don't like one of those that are the 40 that they showcase, it just opens your thinking to all the other just fabulous schools that are out there. So I love that. I like that guide.
Yeah, we'll definitely link to it in the show notes as well as all of your resources too, of course. Absolutely.
Okay. My goal is, I just think a lot of these tools can really just help students. I just want to, rather than me one-on-one tutoring, just get the word out. So I'm always looking for opportunities to do that. So.
Totally. Well, you've shared so much great advice, Janine. Thank you so much.
Well, you're
for
so
coming
welcome.
on.
Yeah.
Where can folks find you online?
I have my blog. It's called Essay Hell. So, www.essayhell.com. And, it's just, I have a blog and it's indexed. So it has, you can go and, writing tips or how to think about, prompt 2. There's all the posts that I've written. So I'm trying to make it so a student can go and kind of quickly find help for whatever they're
Absolutely. No, it's such a great resource. Essayhell.com, tons of articles on writing the college essay, everything you need. More on Janine's formula over there. Janine, thank you so much for coming on College Admissions Toolbox. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll have to have you back again sometime. Please keep in touch.
Well, thank you, Steve. It was really fun talking about the dreaded college essay. And so everybody's going to get in somewhere. So I wish everybody luck. And thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Janine. Take care.
Okay. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to College Admissions Toolbox. Head over to www.collegeadmissionstoolbox.com to get more free tools and resources that will help you get into the colleges of your dreams.